Do you find yourself wishing, dreaming of having more time? What would an extra 20 hours a month mean for you and your business? Heck, and even an extra 10 would be nice, right? Let's face it, as entrepreneurs, we wear so many hats in our business, especially in the first few years as we're really starting to pave our way. We wear the badge of CEO, CFO, assistant, customer service rec, tech support, designer, social media manager, therapist, coach, visionary. Did I name them all? Probably a lot more. The list goes on, right? Over here at the Legal Page, myself and my entire team of employees and contractors have learned that when we're out of our zones of genius, we often refer to them as Frankenstein roles, that these roles are time suckers. When our weeks are then filled with these types of Frankenstein roles, it really costs you as a business. It costs you time away from your craft in your business, time outside of your business with your family, money. If you had those hours back to focus on areas that grow the business, what would that feel like? And sanity. When you're sucked into that kind of work, it drains you. It leads to burnout a lot faster than when you're in a flow of doing what you love, which, hello, isn't that why we started our business in the first place, to follow our passion? So how do you break free from these Frankenstein roles that you're wearing in your business? Hiring. And I know hiring can sound like a big leap. Where do you start? Where do you hire? Do you need XYZ in place? What do I need in place to hire? I've got you covered. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain to share with you the 4 best hires that I made in my business that saved me 20 hours a month. 20 hours that were then used to write more contracts, help more business owners get legally legit, and of course, spend more time with my family. So without further ado, friends, let's get into today's episode. You're listening to the Legal Paige podcast, where we chat about life and business with a legal twist. I'm Paige, attorney and photographer helping online businesses and creatives tackle their business dreams without breaking out in hives. No more legal mumbo jumbo. This podcast features simple, bite-sized advice that'll have you legally legit in no time. Are you ready? Let's get started. All right, let's get right to business because I know time is of the essence. That's kind of the moral of the story in today's episode. And our podcast today is all about how my 4 best hires that I have made in my business, and hopefully your next 4 best hires, are going to save you 20 hours a month at minimum, literally getting a full half a week's worth of work back a month, minimum. So let's start with the first hire I made in the beginning stages of the Legal Page. The very, very first hire that I made in terms of really feeling like I wasn't wearing this role anymore and getting out of my zone of genius was hiring a bookkeeper. Chances are you didn't start your business to be spending all your time handling expenses, receipts, data entry, etc., right? That's why my bookkeeper, Britt, was one of my very, very first hires for the Legal Page when we really started making a profit. I knew my time could be spent elsewhere, and the thought of handling all those receipts just wasn't entirely appealing to me. Of course, I was a math minor in college, and I've loved math. I've loved the numbers my whole life. But bringing on that expert with the efficiencies and systems in place as a bookkeeper was the first time that I started to free up a few hours a week and a month in my business. Of course, you have to DIY bookkeeping when you first start your business. I get it. Everybody does. And that approach will honestly have you spend days preparing your books a month, if not every quarter. It's going to cost you more time and money, and it's going to leave you feeling frustrated. That's where I was at. When I was done with my bookkeeping tasks, when I was DIYing it myself, I was just thinking, yeah, this is okay. I don't mind it, and it's a necessary evil. I have to run my books every month. I have to make sure that I'm counting all my transactions and getting the data entry correctly on QuickBooks and just making sure everything was reconciled. But I wasn't in my zone of genius. I wasn't being lawyer Paige. And that frustration is only going to, at some point, get projected onto your clients and customers. And really what happened is I wasn't forward facing in my business enough. I wasn't creating contracts. I wasn't serving our customers or potential customers enough to convert them from $0 to $1. I could be my own bookkeeper, but it wasn't beneficial to my business. And Britt, who is my bookkeeper with Knies & Co., if you're ever looking for a bookkeeper, go check them out. She was able to help me keep organized. Less time sweating when it came to taxes at the end of the year. Yes, I know we all freak out about taxes. And in little to no time, I had all those hours back monthly and quarterly that I would have spent on those receipts and data entry redirected to where it needed to be. Now, I want to quickly mention some legal tips to be aware of when signing a bookkeeping contract. And as a reminder, anytime I give legal suggestions on my podcast, just know my disclaimer here, I'm an attorney, I'm not your attorney. If you need specific legal advice, then you need to reach out to an attorney in your home state for assistance. But generally speaking, let me give some big legal suggestions of clauses you need to pay particular attention to when your bookkeeper is sending you their bookkeeping contract. To ensure your business is covered and protected, make sure you have a clause related to what documents you need to provide as the client to your bookkeeper and when. So this would be some type of like uploading your bank statements clause and making sure that those bank statements are secure by your bookkeeper. They should either have a bookkeeping platform that keeps those type of documents secure and or that there's some type of confidentiality related to those documents that you're uploading for your bookkeeper. Also, if they have access to your QuickBooks, they have your username and password, that all of that is kept secure and confidential as well. You also need language in your contract from your bookkeeper that's sending this contract to you, right? Because they have their own business. You are hiring them to do the bookkeeping services and package. So they should have their own business at that point, especially if they're a CPA and should be sending you the bookkeeping contract. So this particular next clause needs to be platform expenses. Who is responsible for platform expenses? In most cases, you're responsible for any of your own business's platform expenses. That means your bookkeeper isn't going to pay for them for you unless they have their own bookkeeping software. That should be on them, not on you. And explain here if there's any increases to platform expenses, who's going to bear that expense. Usually it's your business if it's your platform and vice versa for the bookkeepers. And then finally, look out for a clause related to a disclaimer for potential disclosures of confidential information via email, because you and your bookkeeper are probably going to be sending information, monetary information back and forth via email. And unless they have some type of secure platform for you to message each other back and forth, they need to make sure that they're keeping that confidential, anything you send to them via email. And then last quick thing, if your bookkeeper doesn't have a contract to send to you, then they should get one. And if you are hiring someone, you can gently point them to the Legal Paige's bookkeeping contract at thelegalpage.com. I'll be sure to link that up for you in the show notes. And if you're a bookkeeper, I would definitely suggest you go check it out. Now, moving on to the second hire I made that pertains to this 20 hours a month that I've been saving myself is an employee versus a virtual assistant. You know, a bookkeeper probably saved me anywhere from, I'd say, 3 to 5 hours a month, like quite a significant chunk of time. But when I had a virtual assistant, I know it's a really good place to start. I've had lots of conversations about this on the podcast, but I just want to reiterate here. I understand virtual assistants are great. I've worked with and met with incredible professionals in this niche. And there is nothing wrong with choosing the route of hiring a virtual assistant if that works for you right now in your business, especially if they're an independent contractor and monetarily and financially, that makes more sense for your business. 100% I say go for it. But This is key here. And I really want to explain this on this episode. I have found that managing a VA will ultimately kill you. It'll take you so many more hours. Looking at the hours that you have to manage them and keep track of if they are working for you, at what time, if it's worth it to train this VA on a particular specific task, it is a lot. It takes up a lot of time. And ultimately, VAs are contractors. And I have found that that is an open and shut door policy pretty quickly. And I have found that it's like a revolving door policy. VAs come and go in and out of your business often. And so all of the time that you spent hiring them and trying to onboard them doesn't last that long. And VAs, for the most part, are helping you with SOPs, inbox support, small projects, and to-do lists, and getting things checked off for you. What I found, though, once I switched to an employee in that role, is things went so much faster and so much more efficient. I knew from, the 9 to 5 they were working from my company, what they were doing. I knew what they were doing during that time period. I wasn't always worried about, are they getting this task done? What time of day were they doing it? They were working at the time I was working because they were an employee. And the training time was cut down because they were not only learning my systems, but also learning my customer service voice. They had time to do that. My back end, they were learning everything about my business. And in no time, my employee in that same role was running things without having to ask questions and check in as often as my virtual assistant was, which ultimately gave me that time back doing what I needed to do instead of consistently and honestly just continuously managing a virtual assistant. So again, I could take that time back. I would say it was anywhere from 10 hours a month to 12 hours a month. This is a huge chunk of time that I was using to manage and lead and onboard and just continuously onboard my virtual assistant. Over time, like if you're having them on your team, like they're not going to get to know your business within a quick amount of time, like 1 to 2 months, that an employee would, because they're full-time or they're part-time. Like they're fully in, they're fully vested, they're fully committed to you. And then I was able to create more contracts to help more business owners, which in turn gave me more ROI in my business. Now, if you're thinking of making the move and hiring an employee, I do have the perfect contract template for you, and I have some good workflows for you for hiring on employees as well. You want clauses in your contract with employees related to work product, right? They should have all work product fall under your company, and you should own all work product. A probationary period is always a good thing to add into employee contracts. So even if you're in an at-will state, you can let someone go if they are not performing up to par during your probation period. Expenses, what happens with expenses? Are they remote workers? What do they need to provide as an employee versus what do you need to provide in terms of equipment and expenses? Compensation, of course, are they hourly? Are they salary? I have found in the virtual world, just hint here, that salary works a lot better. I think people are more committed when they have more flexibility. And if they're getting their job done for the same salary, just for less hours, cool. Like everybody should have a flexible work schedule. I'm all about it. I have learned that employees that are not having to additionally clock hours and spend their time every day writing down those hours and tracking hours, if they're like, my employer trusts me, and they will be more loyal to you in the long run. I've truly found that. So all of those things need to be subsumed in an employment agreement. You also need an employment offer letter prior to them, and their start date working for you. All to say, head over to the TLP shop and search employee agreement, and you will find the contract template to help you hire an employee and save you time and also likely money and legal headaches. Of course, we have that at thelegalpaige.com, but I will also link it up in the show notes for you too. So moving on, the third hire that I want you to consider, which saved me tons of time, is a copywriter. Now, Anna, my copywriter, has been with me since the beginning. I have another episode in the Legal Page podcast where Anna literally jumps on and is a guest on my podcast, and we talk all about how she's done numerous things for my business as our copywriter. She's been there since beginning of 2019, almost end of 2018, which right there has saved me so much time. I am a writer by nature. I am a lawyer. I literally read and write all day long. But handing that over to someone else and being like, I don't have to wear this copywriter hat helped me immensely. This is another one of those probably at least 5 to 10 hours a month that I got back. Anna literally now touches every single piece of copy content that goes out for TLP. She does our emails, our website copy, our funnels, social media, podcast, blog descriptions, titles, everything. She touches it all. And again, this lets me remove myself from those to-dos, and her and my other employees are talking to one another to decide on the titles, to make sure the descriptions are up to par. And I'm not even in those conversations. It's really, really nice. That would have taken me hours upon hours, especially because creative copywriting isn't my zone of genius. Legal writing is my zone of genius, but that's like drafting contracts. It's not writing really persuasive podcast descriptions. That's her zone of genius. So it's also, again, got me back to doing what I'm passionate about, which is writing contracts, which is writing legal blogs, which is speaking on legal topics, which is writing legal cease and desist letters, you name it. Anything legal, I'm all about. Creative copy is hard for me. It's switching on a different part of my brain. So it's a Frankenstein role for me. So hiring that expert, Anna here, really helped us make sales in our business. That's what I can tell you about copywriting. I definitely think that you need a base foundation of sales copy and being a salesperson through copywriting as a business owner, especially a virtual business owner. I just want to give a shout out here to Ashlyn Carter. She has a really good copywriting for creatives course, and that will give you a good base foundation. There's all kinds of other copywriters out there that have foundational courses on copywriting for solopreneurs, but just make sure that you have some type of base with sales copy because it's in everything you do every single day. But you are still going to be working with your copywriter and reviewing copy that they write for you. And you want to know why. Like, why are they writing things that way? Why are they tweaking different lines? Why are they having different spaces? Why are they having breathing room in, a newsletter? What is the CTA? What is that transition? Why are they doing it that way? You know your business better than anyone else, and you want to be able to work closely with your copywriter. I guess what I'm trying to tell you is your copywriter is actually going to save you the time and energy to write that creative copy, but you still have to work hand in hand with them to make sure that the copy is exactly what your business voice is and your brand voice. But again, you're probably not an expert copywriter, so it's only going to waste time for you to actually write it versus just review it. What I've learned over time working with a copywriter, and this is probably one of the biggest expenses I have in my business, I'm not going to lie, hiring copywriters isn't cheap, but because they know how to put specific words together a certain way to entice a buyer to buy a product, your ROI is only going to increase. And if you put those same words together in a different order, it can actually infuriate a potential buyer and cost your company money. And I soon realized once I hired a copywriter that I could write copy, but honestly, I think it was costing my company money. So then you're dealing with like a customer service disaster, or your clients aren't like fully informed, and you're also just, it's not good sales copy. So all to say, what I'm trying to summarize here is copywriters are really priceless. Like, yes, there's a price tag on them, but the ROI you're going to glean from them, hands down, tenfold times better. And you're going to get that return on your investment there. So legally speaking, I always like to point this out with copywriting contracts. So a copywriter is probably going to send you a contract. If you're hiring someone that's just really good at sales copy and they don't have their actual business, then you will need to send them some type of independent contractor agreement related to them copywriting for you. In a type of copywriting contract like this, make sure that you're looking out for a work relationship clause. Usually copywriters are independent contractors. Unless you're a medium to large size business, you probably don't have in-house copywriters that are full-time. So they're most likely a work relationship clause will explain that there's no employee-employer relationship and they are an independent contractor. Also look out for a delivery of copywriting work and archiving clause because copywriters oftentimes deliver the work to you and then you're required to save it. You're required to archive it as the business owner because usually their work product is your work product. They're working for you and it's a work made for hire situation. That's another intellectual property clause that you want to look out for in a copywriting contract. And then a revisions clause. This is a big one because some copywriters only allow you one free revision where you're working closely with them, like I spoke about previously, hand in hand, kind of looking at copy and tweaking copy. Of course, you're going to ask them for some tweaks here and there. But how many times can you do that without them charging you more? So look for what they are allowing. What is their business policies on revisions? Is it one revision, two revisions, unlimited revisions? You got to check with them. And as I mentioned above, when chatting about a bookkeeping contract, hopefully your bookkeeper sending you a contract, same thing here applies. Your copywriter should be sending the contract to you. And if they don't have one, then they should get one. Again, point them to the Legal Pages copywriter contract. We have that template at thelegalpage.com. I'll link it up in the show notes for you. And all copywriters, make sure you have one and you can go check it out there as well. Finally, the last hire I made, the fourth best hire that saved me those additional probably 10 to 15 hours a month. It's funny because as I'm adding all of these up on the episode, I'm like, I think this has saved me like 30 to 40 hours a month. 20 is a good baseline to start with. But seriously, you guys, I think we're at like 30 to 40 hours a month that I've been saving with these hires as I've actually been talking to them on the episode. Okay, back to what I was talking about. I cannot stress this hire enough. I did hire a bookkeeper first. And then I switched from a VA to an employee. And then all at the same time, when I was hiring the bookkeeper, I was hiring a copywriter. My switch from a VA to an employee was later down the line for my business. And then this one kind of just happened over the past year, a social media manager. A social media manager was so crucial for me. Someone who their zone of genius was literally finding trending things, making sure my posts were getting like up at the right time, helping me with graphics, like on-demand help with social media. That's what you need in a social media manager, especially for a fast-paced business such as the Legal Page. I was running my social media for the entire time I've built TLP. But hiring a social media manager, and I want to preface this by saying I had my copywriter, Anna, I love you, girlfriend. She helped me manage social media for a while, and we did really good together. Like, it was a good tag team. But honestly, I realized, and she realized, she was in a Frankenstein role. Her zone of genius was copywriting, and she could write copy, and she does write a lot of our captions for social media still. But when she was also trying to manage my social media accounts and help me post and help create the content and help create the graphics, like that got her into a different role that she shouldn't have been in. So hiring a true social media manager who's basically the in-between between me and Anna. So they make sure they get the copy and the caption and the overlay text from Anna, but then they are also working with me to just get the video content or collaborate with me and figure out exactly like what I'm trying to get across on social media. This had me out of social media for hours because I used to scroll. I used to post, less time Googling the algorithm and figuring out what the algorithm wanted. And I was not trying to figure out the latest trends anymore. That was on my social media manager. Which, can we just be real for a moment? If you don't like social media and you aren't good at social media, this is all time consuming. Like, you can go down a rabbit hole and be so annoyed with having to be your own social media manager. 1 minute, it's a dance. That's the be all end all. And the next, you're not dancing. It's no longer trending. You're supposed to do voice to camera or face to camera. How many times have you just spent minutes on a trend, only then to spend hours now looking at your reel that should have gone viral and it's sitting at hardly any views? Let's face it. You likely spend hours finding the trend, recording the reel, and creating the caption, and then it just flops. So that time that you would spend daily doing all these things that a social media manager could do, if you were to total all of that up right now, how much is it? Like, how much time is that you're spending on social media? I bet it's astronomical. Go look at your screen time on your phone and on your iPad. We need to be only on social media if you are doing something for your business. You're not in the business. You're forward facing for the business. I get it. You have to be on social media if you are in business nowadays. Let's face it. Like, everyone is on social media on some type of platform, whether that's TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, of course, Instagram. There's new ones now out there too. I don't even know what they are. But it's really the only way that someone's going to find you organically, other than providing decent SEO for your website. So I really can't stress this hire enough of a social media manager. It is worth the investment. You could probably get more hours back from a social media manager. Oh, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. Than a copywriter, than a bookkeeper, then potentially even, probably not an employee, but close second to an employee. It's so worth it, because not only do you get to tap into this huge wealth of knowledge, this social media manager whose zone of genius is to spend all day, every day on social media, analyzing the apps and staying up to date on what's coming up next. You're now not sitting there idly wondering what to do. The twiddling of the thumbs, the like, oh, is this reel actually going to work? How do I flip this? How do I make this? Like, I enjoy that. I enjoy that as a creative business owner. I like to see how I could flip a trending reel for TLP. But should I be doing that? Like, yeah, it's sometimes fun, but sometimes it's really annoying as well. And what social media expects of you and how much content you're supposed to push out, that should be put on someone else, not you as the CEO of your business. Honestly, this hire is a double bonus because you aren't burning your hours on the marketing, wondering if what you're doing is actually working, when in fact, maybe you're not even seeing any sort of result or understanding even how to measure social media as a potential organic form of traffic. But you also aren't burning the midnight oil trying to learn how to measure this, how to keep up with the trends, and also just actually making the freaking videos. All of that is a lot of time. A lot of time. And then I get this question a lot. Well, Paige, when is the time to hire a social media manager right? How do I know it's the right time? My answer to this is, honestly, when you've plateaued, when you've done all you can to grow online in your very limited capacity and time ability every single week and every single day. If you can't seem to push past a certain number of followers, of likes, of engagement, comments, of actually converting just followers to customers, that's when you need to think about a social media manager. If it's constantly a pain for you, like a to-do list, this checkbox that you have to keep doing day in and day out, that's tiresome, that doesn't fill up your cup, then you know it's time to hire an expert. Those are all very simple ways that you will know it's time. Social media manager is going to help me. There are lots of really good social media managers out there, a ton, you guys. And oftentimes they are contractors as well, similar to a copywriter. They may work for a couple other businesses Social media managers are interesting beings. I feel like you want to find a good social media manager that only has a few like top tier clients is kind of what I call them. It's not like you're paying $10,000 a month for this social media manager, but you don't want them being overwhelmed, like they have too many clients. So definitely a question to ask them when you're hiring them. But sometimes social media managers also have like really low maintenance clients on the side that are like product-based businesses, and they're not like forward-facing personal brands is what I'm trying to say. Those type of social media managers should probably only work with a couple forward-facing personal brands at a time, so they can really devote enough time and attention to you when you're hiring them. Social media managers, usually they're either an agency or they're their solo business, like a solopreneur, and they should have their own contract. Of course, you can send them an independent contractor agreement as well. Usually a social media manager is probably going to have their own contract because they've got a lot of boundaries that they probably want to set. Make sure in these contracts when you're signing them to look out for like a content management clause. So how much content are they managing? Is there any barriers to that? Is there like a max amount of content they'll put out a month? Is there a minimum? Of course, minimum's good for you and understanding kind of your rights under the contract. Another one is kind of the client's duty to follow FTC regulations and social media regulations. Social media managers want to put the onus on you if you have a larger account, a larger following, that you are the one responsible for all of the FTC guidelines. They can help you, they can guide you, especially if you're doing affiliate marketing or influencer marketing online. They will help you and hold your hand along the way, but ultimately it's your brand putting this on your account and you're responsible for following those FTC guidelines. And then the last thing to look out for in these contracts is competitive engagements. So social media managers, you don't want them necessarily working with your direct competition because they're going to learn things from your business and you don't want that. It's honestly really easy for them to unknowingly kind of do something on a competitor's account that is similar to what they did on your account, and then it doesn't look as original for your account. I've had this happen with previous social media managers. And so just look out for like them hiring similar businesses to you or working with similar businesses to you. You got to protect your business. And the very last thing for a social media management contract to be aware of is analytics. How much analytics are they running for your business? Are they making sure UTM tags are attached to all of the links that they're sharing on your social media pages? Are they tracking those? Are they giving you an update on analytics? Is that weekly? Is that monthly? What does that look like? And you can also negotiate this type of clause when you're hiring a social media manager. As always, if you are a social media manager, make sure you have a contract. If you're hiring a social media manager and they don't have a contract, you can point them to thelegalpage.com. We have social media management contracts in there, and I'll link it in the show notes to make it easier for you as well. My friends, we've made it to the end of this episode. We've talked about the 4 hires, and I just want to recap. We first talked about a bookkeeper. That was step 1 for me. Then we talked about, instead of a virtual assistant, potentially moving those over to employees. I love virtual assistants. I'm not knocking you. I'm just saying I have learned there's a lot more efficiency in a part-time or full-time employee. And then a copywriter is also a really good hire. And finally, a social media manager. These are the 4 best hires that I've personally made that have saved me at least 20 hours a month, if not 40 hours a month, which is getting me a week back per month to be in my zone of genius and do what I need to do. I believe these hires are going to help you scale your business to new heights and have you reaching new goals. That's ultimately what I want for you. I want you to flourish and be successful as a business owner. And it's going to give you the breathing room and the time back for your loved ones and the time back to doing what you're passionate about. Ultimately, that's why we are running our own businesses anyway, isn't it? If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to me at The Legal Page on Instagram, at Facebook, or thelegalpage.com. And my friends, I will talk to you in next week's episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Legal Paige podcast. I am beyond grateful for you, which is why I want to give you a coffee or your favorite bevy on me. If you leave a 5-star rating and review for the Legal Paige podcast on iTunes, screenshot the review and send it to me on Instagram at The Legal Paige. That's The Legal Paige. I will send you a Starbucks gift card from me. Just make sure to include your email in the DM. So again, send a screenshot of the review to me on Instagram at The Legal Paige, include your email address, and I will send you some Starbucks, because what better gift than caffeine for every business owner? Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Legal Paige podcast. See, I told you being legally legit isn't so scary. Be sure to visit thelegalpage.com for all show notes. And it would be super awesome if you could head over to iTunes and leave a review. Last but not least, don't forget to join my free Facebook group for unlimited legal and biz Q&A. Chat soon, Legal Pagers.